Welcome to my messy studio, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm an artist and an art professor. And in this short lesson, we're going to talk about yet another traditional way of rendering in pen and ink, a hybrid method that combines cross-hatching with stippling. I'm going to show you a few ways of doing it, show you some old master examples of how it was done, and then demonstrate this technique by doing a drawing. Let's get started. But before I do, let me quickly announce that I have a bunch of online workshops coming up in January and February. These are beginner-friendly classes and cover a number of topics which will be of interest to those of you just starting in pen and ink or already have a bit of experience. The first one I'm running is called The Fundamentals of Cross-Hatching, the 6 Basic Strokes. Then I have a workshop on drawing the head in pen and ink, and one on how to sketch people in pen and watercolor. Lastly, I have a follow-up to my Fundamentals of Cross-Hatching workshop called Details and Textures in Pen and Ink, where I go deeper into various rendering methods. Please visit my website, the link to which I'll leave below for more information and to register. Okay, back to the lesson. I've demonstrated quite a few ways of rendering on this channel, but all of them have one thing in common, in that they are hatching techniques, relying on closely spaced lines to create the illusion of value. There are obviously other ways of shading with a pen, however, and one of them is called stippling, where an artist will place dots in different degrees of densities to create the illusion of value. Pure stippling, as far as I know, is a modern technique, and though I have nothing against it, it's not something I use in my own work. However, stippling in combination with hatching has a long history and is something I use all the time, since it allows you to make very subtle adjustments to value. Here's how it works. To demonstrate, let's shade the sphere starting with a bit of cross-contour hatching, though any hatching technique, be it parallel hatching or cross-hatching, will work here. For best results, don't make your hatching too finely spaced, since you'll want the stippling to fill in the little spaces between your hatch marks. If after putting down a few layers, I still feel the urge to go darker, but don't want to add another hatching layer and risk going too dark, I'll switch to stippling. This is a very simple technique. The only trick is to do your best to keep the dots random, allowing them to build up evenly without forming a pattern. The density of the stippling can be whatever you want, and you can use it to complete the darks in your drawing. Stippling can also be used in other places in your drawing, for example, to create soft transitions from light to shadow. The great thing about this technique is that the stippling stage can be applied very gradually and isn't as stressful as putting down another hatching layer where there's a greater risk of going too dark and making things messy. Here's an excellent example of this stipple and hatch approach by the great Flemish painter and engraver Jaques de Gheyn. You would think that this way of working would create a messy effect, but that's simply not the case. This method allowed de Gheyn to limit the number of hatching layers and create a drawing that's both precise and soft. Another artist that used this combination of hatching and stippling effectively is the Italian Baroque painter and draftsman Guercino. In this wonderfully sensitive depiction of a young boy, we see the energetic interplay of these two mark-making methods, which both support each other and also create an exciting contrast of textures. By the way, while the drawings I've shown you are fairly loose in terms of execution, being more sketches than finished work, you can also be more deliberate and meticulous. Here, to drive home the point, is an absolutely mind-blowing example by the Dutch printmaker Hendrick Goltzius. I enjoy using this technique for drawing the figure, especially when I'm using a fairly dark ink and a pen with a broader tip. In such situations, making subtle transitions is more difficult, and the addition of stippling makes things easier. I've found that the drawing will look more organized and ultimately will have a cleaner feel if the tasks of stippling and hatching are kept separate, with hatching doing one thing and the stippling another. In this drawing, I'm using a few layers of cross-contour hatching to establish the overall shadow values, with the stippling used only to reinforce the coarse shadows and darker details, and also to create the very delicate halftones in the lighter areas. However, there are lots of other ways this combination of hatching and stippling can be used, and I would experiment with it and see what works best for you. As I see it, the role of an instructor is only to lead you to the path, not guide you through it. Instructors that show you exactly how to do things are having you follow in their footsteps instead of allowing you to forge your own path. A few other possibilities, which I'll leave you to explore, is to use different colors of ink for the stippling. For example, a red or a blue to add touches of color to the drawing. I hope you found this mini lesson useful, and if you did, please consider taking my workshops. And if you can't make those dates, I've made a number of recorded lessons available for purchase through Vimeo. Thanks so much for watching, and see you back in my messy studio very soon. Bye-bye.